It's the Happy Families podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
Hello, this is Dr. Justin Coulson, the author of a bunch of books about how to make your family happier. Happy New Year. Oh, by the way, not here with Kylie today, and it's breaking my heart that I'm not with her. It's actually genuinely crushing me. A bit of a story to this, but Kylie's not living with me at the moment. It's okay. Our family's happy and our relationship is intact, but we're moving house. We're leaving Brisbane, and Kylie is in the process of helping us to relocate. So we'll talk about that later. Joining me today, I have somebody who I think you're going to be so excited to meet. And for the next week, all of this week, Kate Meade is joining me on the Happy Families podcast to talk kids and parenting and happiness and holidays and the stress of what it is to be a parent. Kate Meade, welcome to the Happy Families podcast.
And all the messiness that it brings. I am here with you. It's an honour, Justin. And a shout out to Kylie. I cannot feel her high heels or her sneakers or any type of shoes that she walks. But
stopping on your feet and saying, "What are you doing on my podcast?"
I'll do my best just to keep you company this week. How does that sound?
So, Kate, so that our Happy Families community can get to know you a bit, they're probably thinking, well, what's Justin doing? This is random. This is not normal. Tell us a bit about Kate Meade, the Kate Meade story, kids, family, a bit of background, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a mum of 3. I've been with my husband now for 20 years. His name is Chris. His nickname is Tank, if you'd believe it.
Is he built like one?
He is built like one. So he's a big old footballer.
So you've been together for about 20 years. You said you've got 3 kids. Tell us about the kids.
Yeah, so Charlotte is 18, ready to have a bit of a gap year.
Yeah, great.
So then I have a son, Paddy, who is about to turn 15 this year, who is our athletic, running, surfing kind of dude, very casual, quiet little guy. And then we have Chester, who is 12 years old, and Chester has autism with a mild intellectual disability and a speech delay. So if you think about what a crazy family looks like, there's a 4-year gap between the oldest and the middle child, and then we throw in a disability on the third. Life around my house is pretty crazy.
Yeah, wow. Kate, we probably are going to need to talk about that during the week, what it's like to have your family and to be going through the various things that you are, especially at those ages as well. You also host a podcast.
I do. It is called The Women of Influence, and essentially it come about, Justin, because I managed to make it on a list of the Australian Financial Review 100 Women of Influence.
Wow.
And yeah, it was crazy to have my name on the list, right? And I get to Sydney at the Sydney Town Hall, and it's this amazing black tie event, and everyone's amazing, and there's little Kate walking in the room thinking I should not be in this room. But what was fascinating was that I got talking to the other, say, finalists, and one of the young girls, she was 16, and she'd developed a breast shield for women with breast cancer to help them through their treatment. And I thought, where are these stories? Who's telling these stories? Who's telling the untold stories of Australian women, not the big ones in the media and the everyday woman? And so that is how it was born.
Wow, I love it. So it's the Women of Influence podcast.
Yeah.
We will link to that in the show notes. I would imagine that there's a lot of people, mums and dads, who would really be interested in hearing these inspirational stories. Thank you for that. And maybe your biggest claim to fame right now is that so you're based in Victoria, but you're about to move to Sydney because
this is huge. Well, it's huge in my world. I'm heading up to Sydney for the Jonesy and Amanda breakfast show in Sydney, and I will be one of their senior producers. And it's a big move. There's no word for it.
Yeah. So for those of you who are not familiar with the Sydney radio market, Jonesy and Amanda Keller, one of the most popular radio programs in the country, and you're going to be running the show for them. You'll be lining everything up, making everything happen, and helping them to sound fantastic.
It's a wonderful opportunity to get around and support them. We're talking about two professionals that have been at it for 17 years.
Yes, yeah.
So I'm not sure about running the show, but hopefully supporting and being a key member of the team. That's what I'd be hoping for.
Hey, after the break, we're going to talk about a couple of these things that you've highlighted, specifically what it means for your family to be moving interstate, given that the family's not moving, only you are. And you're going to be commuting from Victoria to New South Wales on an every so often basis. And how as a family you came to the conclusion that this could work. That's up next on the Happy Families podcast.
It's the Happy Families podcast.
Imagine a home where discipline got results without anyone having to feel bad or in trouble. The Do's and Don'ts of Discipline is a webinar to help parents set limits with love, compassion and humanity. Find it now at happyfamilies.com.au/shop.
It's the Happy Families podcast, the podcast for the time poor parent who just wants answers now with Justin and Kate.
Sounds weird saying Justin and Kate. For those of you who, I was going to say for those of you who missed it, but we're not on the radio, it's a podcast. If you've heard the first half, Kylie's not here this week, Kate's with me instead. I was going to explain that, but people aren't sort of coming back after the ads and going, what's going on here? So Kate, let's talk a bit about this role reversal. So normally when we hear about commuting, especially via aeroplane and interstate, what we'll find is that dad, in your standard biological family, the standard setup, dad's taking off. He's going to be flying to Sydney once a week or flying to Brisbane once a week or whatever, having a few days up there and then coming home for a couple of days. You're doing it the other way around, and it's not one of those FIFO things where sometimes it'll be, what is it, like 10 days on, 4 days off or something like that. What's your fly-in, fly-out regimen looking like? And how did you come up with this? How's it going to work?
Oh, this is, huge, big, all enormous, all of the little micro conversations I bet you can imagine happened. When it was first presented, it was a no. How can you do it?
So who did you present it to? Did you talk to what's your husband's name?
Tank. Let's call him Tank.
Tank, that's right. You told me his name before, but Tank is the one that we're going to go with. So,
yeah, we'll go with Tank.
So did you sit with Tank and say, hey, sweetie, because of course that's what you call a tank. Did you say, hey, Tank, this is too good to be true and I think I should do it? Or did you bring the whole family together? Because again, you've got these 3 adolescents now. Was it everyone together, or how did this play out? Yeah,
it was no, hey, bub, I've just had an amazing phone call today.
Bub.
Something that's come out of, bub.
Okay.
Left of field. And I want to talk about it because there's some opportunities that come along in a lifetime. Some you can say no to, and others, if you don't say yes to, I would be worried that one day I'll roll over one Saturday morning or in 10 years' time and say, I wonder what would have happened if I'd had a go.
Right.
I can't imagine living a life like that. I can't actually, and how we're trying to raise our children is that what's the worst thing that could possibly happen? Nothing terribly bad can happen from having so if I fail at this, I will have learnt so much. And so it was, originally it was no.
Let me ask you, how often are you coming back?
At the moment, fortnightly.
Wow.
So it is. So we've mapped out, we've got the calendar out.
Right.
So everyone knows. So we literally, and then we actually said to the kids, when do you want mum home? And straight away, birthdays, righto, bang.
Yep.
So I've got to be home for birthdays.
Right.
Mother's Day, bang. Father's Day, bang. Easter, bang. So I was saying, I'm going to be home 3 weeks in the weekend, 1 month or, So special occasions, non-negotiable. Non-negotiable. So I keep saying it's fortnightly, but
it sounds like a bit more than that. On paper, though, even though you're saying that, it's challenging to do what you're doing. I think that even though you're not going to be on the podcast long term, because Kylie will be back next week, I think we're going to have to check in and see how it's going with the commute and see whether or not you've just ended up moving in with Jonesy and Amanda.
No, I'd love to. I believe they live in much bigger homes than the one I will be in.
Yeah, probably. Which means they'll have all that space for you.
Well, Justin, this was not a decision like a snap, this is what the whole family is going to do. This has been a process of about 8 weeks of micro conversations. So it just doesn't work, does it? I don't know. Maybe it does in some families, but for me to lay down the law, which I do try to occasionally, right. But in this situation, no, that was never, it had to be micro conversations.
Well, we've done the same kind of thing with our family. We have been talking about how nice it would be to be near the coast. And we actually, over Christmas, had a break and spent a week near the coast on the beach. And as we drove home, I said to Kylie, if I found out some awful news, if I found out that I was going to pass away in the next, I don't know, week or month or year, the first thing I'd do is sell the house and move to the coast. And we kind of sat in silence for a moment, and then I looked at her and I said, what are we doing? Like, if this is that important, what are we still doing where we are? And there's so much to love about where we are. It's not that we feel in any way like things are bad. We have everything. Life is good, but that's what I would choose if I could choose. And I realized, hang on, maybe there is a choice here to be made. And then it was the same kind of thing. Let's explore this with the kids. Hey kids, what do you think? How would it feel? What would we have to give up? What could we gain? What would work for you? And just those incidental conversations led to a big decision. Anyway, Kylie and I will share more about that in the next few weeks. Kate, really looking forward to this week. Thank you for sharing so generously.
It's going to be a great week ahead and I'm looking forward to it. And don't worry, Kylie, I expect you back next week.
Tonight, a brand new webinar, one that I haven't presented before. It's all about milestones, your growth guide, how we can know where our kids should be and when and why and what to do if they're not, their brains, their bodies, and a whole lot more. This is a webinar that's included in every Happy Families membership. If you're a Happy Families member, it's yours free tonight. You can get all the details in the Happy Families app or online. If you're not a Happy Families member, become one today. Every month we do a webinar, and this is going to be an absolute cracker to start the year. That's your growth guide, all about your kids' milestones tonight. And tomorrow, in the Happy Families podcast, Kate is going to spill the beans on what happens when you have a child with COVID, because Kate has lived that. How do you deal with the isolation, your world getting turned upside down? Because let's face it, pretty much all of Australia is going to have had COVID in the next couple of weeks if you haven't had it already. We're going to get the lowdown on that. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media. Craig Bruce is our executive producer. And for more info on all the stuff we've talked about, visit happyfamilies.com.au.